All right, guys, we're back with Mr. Buck Johnson. What's up, dude?
What's up, Tommy Salmons? How are you?
I'm much better today than I was. I still got the cough and the stopped up nose, but other than that, I'm doing pretty well. I told my godfather yesterday, I told him, I said, I'm about 78%. If I can get rid of this congestion, I'll be right
Yeah,
on track. You
same.
know, you sound better than you did the other day.
Yeah, thank God. My voice is back. Yeah.
Yeah, but yeah, once I get over that, like all the body aches and chills and fever and all that crap, I dealt with that for 4 days, but thank God it's gone, but still got the congestion and the cough.
Just enough to be annoying.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. Like just when you think you're drying up, suddenly one side of your face just clogs and you're like,
Yes.
I can't fucking breathe, man.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, such is life, especially in Texas. So but we're here to talk about the age of revelation. And this is something that you like started mentioning. I don't know if you heard it from someone else or if it was
Either.
something you had come up with, but I heard you mention it a few times. I guess the first time I remember hearing it was like maybe early January, late December.
Of
Is
this
that,
year,
yeah, I think so.
I was saying it during COVID too.
Were
Maybe I
you?
got it from someone. I feel bad if I did and I'm not giving them credit. If I did, I don't remember who I got that from.
I don't guess I remember hearing it said then, but like putting the pieces together. I'm like, yeah, and it started way back then.
Certainly for you and I.
Right. Yes. Yes. And that was one of the things that I think people that have known me as long for a long period of time have had troubles with me is because I wasn't like against God. I was just kind of like, I don't know. Like, what do I know? Like, who am
Right.
I?
Right.
And now I guess I'm 100% certain in what I am doing and in the direction I'm heading that it, it's like they're taking a double take. They're like, you're not even the same person. And I'm like, when I recognized that there was pure evil in this world, I immediately knew there's got to be a source of good.
hmm You were the age of revelation has turned you away from being doubting Thomas.
Yes, yes, absolutely. I told Matt one time, I said, yeah, I had to touch the scars.
Yeah.
Yeah, I had to put my finger in the wounds and I didn't like the
Right.
way it felt. So, yeah, for sure. It was like, oh, I had something like really brilliant to say and it just slipped my mind as all my brilliant thoughts always do. So, there you go.
You
So,
had a thought and it died of loneliness.
yes, yes, that's exactly right. When I think of the phrase though, the age of revelation, I think of it as a good thing.
Oh yeah.
And and I think that's a major issue that we're really running into right now is you're seeing this cross between American kind of like Protestantism
hmm
that really most of us grew up in and really recognize it's very recognizable. It's almost relatable in some senses, but they don't look at revelation as a good thing.
No. Right. Well, a lot of them, because of some of their bigger voices online, certainly, and in news and church circles, they're revealing a lot of things about Protestantism and the worldview, certainly the dispensationalist and a Zionist worldview that's part of Protestantism. It's all the rage right now. It feels like as it slips away in popularity in sort of the last generation that's out there um, claiming it and putting it into the forefront of foreign policy and whatnot. That generation's slowly dying off, and it's like their last grasps at relevancy, I suppose, and they're just everything's stripping away, and they're basically calling for imprisonment of people that disagree with them, and they're making it widely known that this war is not necessarily tactical and political as much as it is religious. And I think maybe 10 years ago, I think when Pete Hegseth was saying that stuff in 2017 that he got was published his on camera, I don't think he thought, yeah, this, I mean, this is how we view things. This isn't that big of a deal. And it kind of just stayed below the surface. And like John Hagee, he's been preaching the same message since I was going there as a teenager, but now it's coming to the forefront, and it's sort of been the nice veneer has been stripped away, it seems like.
Yeah, it's really it really I mean for me it's heartbreaking because I know that if I sat down like and talked to like people of my youth, like preachers that I grew up around or family members for that matter, and had a conversation with them about this stuff, they would immediately like just be calling me all kinds of names, demonic and satanic, and it would be like, what are you talking about? We all grew up reading the same scriptures and understanding the stories in a specific way, and and now you're saying because I don't think it's a good idea to usher in this. I mean, I was listening to I went back yesterday and I listened to some of your episodes with Father John.
John Whiteford, yeah.
Yeah. And and I don't was it on your podcast that he brought it up? It was either on your podcast or it was on the Unto Ages podcast. So forgive me if I'm getting it wrong. But he brought up the Left Behind movies. And I remember my grandma she had Thief in the Night on VHS. And I was like 7 or 8 the first time I ever watched that movie. And I was like, this is wild. And I begged my youth pastor to do a Bible study on Revelation when I had, well, I must have been 14 or 15. I had gotten expelled from school and then sent down to Louisiana to live with my grandparents. So I must have been around 14 or 15 when that happened. I was freshman, sophomore in high school. And we did that. And I just remember like going through the entire thing and getting to the tribulation and being like, that's crazy. Like, are we sure? Like he's gonna turn all of us into Enoch? Like that's what's happening here. And and it was just with certainty, yes, that's how we're to interpret the book of Revelation. And I was like, well, if God's listening, I hope he leaves me here because I'd much rather be one of the ones on earth that are trying to carry on his name than being rescued from torments that other people are having to go through. Something along those lines. That was kind of my thought process. I thought, but I looked at it as a thrill, right? Because I was a thrill seeker, you know, when I was young. I liked the danger and the
Bring it
fun.
on. Bring it
Yeah, let's
on.
go, baby.
Yeah, right. Yeah, do you remember those end times charts and stuff that dispensationalist pastors would hold up and show? Have you seen any of those old videos?
I think, yeah, I think so. I mean,
My pastor Hagee had would, it's a boomer mega church, so there's always sort of props and giant screen behind him with stuff.
right. Yeah.
Sometimes he'd be preaching on, yeah, maybe the book of Revelation, and like those charts would be huge behind him. And there is a fascination, I think, when you were a teenager, at least for me, and to see some of that stuff. And I thought it was cool. Um, I suppose the esoteric nature, or it was almost like little demonic qualities to like, ooh, look
Yeah.
what's happening over here. And I was like, what's happening on this time? I thought it was fascinating. And now looking back on that stuff, it's wild to think that like grown adults like hold that up and they're like, so this is this is how it's gonna work. I imagine walking into an Orthodox parish and the priest is like, here's our end times. You'd be like, what is this?
What is this? Yes. Yeah, and you know, it's funny because some people that aren't Orthodox and not religious in any fact of the matter will be like, well, I saw on X people posting about like this eschatology and that eschatology, and the Orthodox are saying this and the Protestants are saying this. Like, what's going on? And I'm like, look, man, like all this stuff, like it'll cause anxiety if you pay too much attention to that stuff. It'll cause anxiety unless you know what the purpose of these things being revealed to the
Yeah.
church
Yeah.
were, and you're not going to know that outside of the church.
Right.
So it's obvious that like an atheist or an agnostic that runs into this stuff and looks at it and they're like, these people are nuts.
Yeah.
Like these people are crazy. And some of them are because some of them have like this nihilistic view of the world. Like I remember like everybody that I grew up around and going to church with they were sweet people, right? But there was like a true nihilism when it came to talking about the world
Hmm.
and talking about things of the world and the way that the world interacts and the way that you engage with the world. There was like a true, like almost like hatred for the world. And it's like, no, like I get like not wanting to be of the world, like not wanting to be a secularized person, but you have to engage in this world. Like that's where we live, that's where God put us, and he put us here at this time for a specific reason. And so that was a bit of a turnoff too, is just the nihilism in itself that many of these people like breed. And it's like they get like this, I don't even know how to say it nicely, but kind of like this like demonic glee about the possibility of the world coming to an end.
Yeah, part of that, this is my own sort of theory, is that there's a maybe a lack of the need for repentance. So if you think you're once saved, always saved, then well, yeah, let's get out of here. Let's end this thing now, and we're all going to be gone. Versus the Orthodox view that like prophecies are given and revealed, so we have time to repent,
Right.
and that's why we're here. I remember being in a van with Conrad and Father Peter and Athos, and we were doing this like would you rather game,
Mm.
and it was would you rather go to prison right now for the rest of your life or die tomorrow? And I said, well, die tomorrow. And Father Peter's like, no, no. And he talked about this holy saint that was dying, and some of his spiritual children came to him, and they're saying, "Father, you're dying. You're going to be in paradise." And he was really upset. And they said, "Why are you so upset?" And he goes, "Because I need 100 more years to repent, or something like that." And Father Peter's like, "Do you think you're more ready to go than he was?"
Right.
And okay, that's a very fair statement. I changed my answer to life in prison.
There was a when I talked to Ben Dixon the other day, he had mentioned we were talking about Metropolitan Arseni, who had been arrested in 2023 and he spent 2 years in prison and now he's on house arrest. And he said when his attorney was there visiting, like all Metropolitan Arseni would do is talk to his attorneys about God, about Christ. He wouldn't talk to him about the case at all. He was just talking to him about Christ. And so I
Yep.
guess I would imagine the attorney's kind of frustrated because he's like, I have a job to do here, man.
Yeah.
Like,
Right.
like, come on, can we get on with the actual purpose of me being here? And he was standing outside, and one of the prisoners like called the attorneys aside, and he goes, "Oh, you're here representing Metropolitan Arseni?" And he goes, "Yeah, yeah, that's him." And he goes, "Have you heard of what happened here?" And the attorney's like, "No, what's going on?" And he goes, "He's turned this prison into a monastery.
Wow.
Like the prisoners were confessing to him, and if they weren't able to actually sit down and speak to him, they were like passing notes back and forth, and he would pass back like what they needed to do to absolve themselves. Like he had like basically been witnessing the for the entire 2 years he had been witnessing inside the prison.
Perfect example. Exactly what sort of what I'm talking about, playing out in real life. That's beautiful.
Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, you definitely reminded me of that. I remember hearing you tell that story once before, but you know, you saying it reminded me of Ben telling me about that. I was like, wow, that's crazy. That's wild. Because so
Yeah.
many people would be so obsessed with themselves and their comfort.
Yes. Well, absolutely. Well, in my initial answer, I was when I said that answer, oh,
Right.
I guess I'll just die tomorrow. And it's still that Protestant nature of like, well, I'm saved, so why would I want to go through a hardship? And that's really the inverse of the message that the church teaches.
Yes. Yes. Absolutely. Yeah. Reading, one of the first things Father Turbo ever told me to read was the prologue.
Me too.
And sometimes it's very uncomfortable to read. Like
Yeah.
sometimes it's like, oh my gosh, I'm
Yep.
terrible, you know.
Yeah. I've heard criticism from people saying that's a little dark and sometimes sort of violent for a way to start off your day. And Father Turbo was there once when that was said, and he's like, no, no, that's why you need to understand this and grasp what they went through and why they were doing it, why they were willing to go through this. Because when you have a hardship in your day and you're like, I have a flat tire, damn it, FML, as the kids say, it's
Yeah.
like you can think back to what you read in the morning, like, okay, mm, yeah, I think I could make it through this.
Oh shucks, a flat tire.
Right.
Yeah. That's like a 5-10 minute inconvenience at worst if you're prepared. So,
Yes. And now people can listen to you do it.
yeah, yeah. Yeah. Uh, I haven't been I haven't been doing too well lately because I've been so congested. I'm trying to read. I'm like, oh
I feel
God.
that. I feel that.
I actually John and I had to cancel on last Sunday because I was so sick. I was like, dude, there's no way. And he's like, all right, well, let's try to make up for it in the week. And I was like, man, I'm reading the prologue. I'm reading like 8 minutes. And by the time I'm done, I'm dead. I can't breathe. I mean, like, okay, I got to go do something else. I got to go take a breath. I was like, there's no way I can read for an hour. There's absolutely zero way to get through a chapter of Rules for Radicals right now. So we should be
Yeah.
picking
Yeah.
that back up this coming weekend. Uh, he's celebrating his anniversary yesterday and today. So him and his wife are out of town. So hopefully next week we'll pick that one back up. But yeah, yeah, I do that just as much for myself, just out
Oh,
of
I
selfish
figured.
reasons because
Yeah.
it keeps me accountable.
Yep.
You know,
Right.
I'm
Yeah.
like, I gotta do this.
Yes.
It could
Yes.
be 7, 8 o'clock at night, and I just ate dinner, and I'm just like, oh man, it'd be so easy to just go to bed right now. And
Hmm.
I'm like, nope, I gotta go sit down in front of that computer. I got 9 minutes in me. I can do it.
Yeah.
You know,
Yep.
yeah,
Yep. It's just
it,
like a quick spiritual workout.
yeah, yeah. And I'm certain I get more out of it than anybody else because not only am I reading it, but I'm also hearing it as I'm reading it. And then I listen to it again once it comes out. Because sometimes I'll do like seven in a day
Wow.
and I'll just pop out seven of them. Like, because usually I'm off 3 days a week. And on Sundays, I'll go to liturgy, I'll come home, I'll do Lives of the Saints and record with John and hang out with Beatrix some. And then let's say I'm off Monday and Tuesday. Well, I know one of those days I have to record, I have to do some work around the house, and the next day I have to record a week's worth of prologue.
Wow.
Yeah. So most of that I'll do all in one day.
Dang, that's badass. That's admirable. That's tough to do. I get lazy sometimes even like, oh, I got to make an intro and an outro for that episode I recorded 3 days ago. I'll do it later. Then 10 o'clock rolls around. I'm like, I guess I should probably do it. Maybe I'll do it in the morning before. It's just constant.
It's so easy to do too.
Yes,
You
yes.
know, it's one of the things I've really had to I've struggled with for the most part is my prayer rule and is not difficult. Like if you really want to boil it down, it's not difficult. And you know, my reading rule from Father Turbo is not difficult at all. And and I'll miss days and I'm like, why couldn't I just read one chapter of John today? Like,
Mhm.
what was I doing? Oh, I was scrolling through YouTube listening to highlights of 1980s basketball games or something, you know?
I
And
do
it's
know.
like,
Yeah.
and you're just like, sometimes I just like look at myself and I'm like, what? I talked to Father Turbo the other day. I was like, you know, it's sometimes it's so easy to just throw up your hands and be like, this isn't natural. Why am I doing this?
Hmm.
And I was like, it's taken me a long time. It's taken me 4 years to get to the point where I'm like, it doesn't matter if I fail today, I can do it tomorrow.
Hmm.
And, and that's really helped me out, you know, in being able to continue and getting back to the age of revelation. The more you see going on in the world, the more it's like, I have to do this.
Hmm.
Like, I don't have a choice here. Like, not only is my soul on the line, but so many others.
Yeah. And I think I was trying to make a comparison to those nihilistic timelines that they used to do and maybe still do to an extent with sort of comparing and contrasting with Father Seraphim Rose, like it's later than you think. And I think for us, it's like, yes, this could be towards the end of the world here or not. But either way, we should sort of try to live the church life as if it is,
Yes.
because you don't know when it is. We don't have these charts and timelines, and we don't make the predictions like a bunch of guys in the 80s did and 90s on TV. And so, because we don't do that, we're admitting in humility we don't know, but it could be very soon. Maybe it's not. But either way, you should act like it is.
Yeah. It was one of the prologues from the other day where um, the saint said something along the line. I think it was Saint Isaac the Syrian. It was being quoted in the reflection, and it was like something along the lines. And I'm gonna jack this quote up really bad, but it was along the lines of repent today like you won't be here tomorrow, or
Hmm.
something like that.
Hmm.
And I was like, oh man.
I know.
Oh,
Yeah.
like because none of us do it. Like
No.
it's like,
Even hearing that, you're like, okay, I can do that. Okay, I don't do that.
yeah,
Yeah.
there's no like I just don't
Yeah.
and you know, I was listening to so Ben Dixon and Paisios, they
Yeah.
started a new
Love that.
podcast. And I listened to the second one. I didn't listen to the first one because I just found it. And I listened to the second one. And they had mentioned something about how it takes 10 years to really get into the life of the church and to really understand. And I'm like, the first thought that popped into my head is like, and here I am 4 years in, and I'm like, why haven't I reached theosis yet? You know,
Yes.
like
No.
I should have this figured out by now.
Yep. No, me too. That's almost comforting to hear them say that. I've heard others say that, it takes years and years and years because you realize how important it is. And then it's this constant, like, well, dang it. Again, I didn't do my prayer rule yesterday, or I fell asleep on the couch last night and woke up in the middle of the night and went to my bed. And then I obviously forgot to do it then as well.
Yeah.
So there's this push from, I think, from yourself and myself, and I'm sure those guys, Ben and Paisios, like, we want to do this now. We want to get into this as much as we can now, and I just don't sometimes. It's just like we fail. It's frustrating. It's like in human nature, I suppose.
Well, I was talking to my godfather. Maybe one day I'll be able to get him on here. He would he has a degree in psychology and he's a cradle Orthodox from Lebanon. Uh,
That's weird.
very
My godfather has a degree in psychology. Hmm.
really
Yeah.
okay. And I would like to get him on here sometime just to chat. And we were talking about the kind of post-enlightenment, like hyper rational mindset of the West and how much it has created issues like that within people.
It's in us.
Yes.
It's frustrating
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
we
I
see
mean,
it. Because we see
yes.
it. Like it's one thing if you're like your grandparents or parents or something that were just grew up prot, and you're like, well, of course they have that, but I don't.
Yeah.
And then you do something, you're like, I do still have it. It's frustrating.
It's just like, how long is it going to take me to rid myself of this, cancer that just lingers in me, that like I can read myself to salvation, or
Yeah.
something, that whole idea, like I just have to read more. I would
Yeah.
be more faithful if I could just read more.
I'll
But
be
then
a
you,
better libertarian if I read this over and over again. I'll
if I
just be
can
the best.
memorize it, yeah,
Yes.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's like, and then you hear like, then I heard I think about that because I have all these books and I've read quite a few of them, but there's still a bunch of them. I'm like, I got to get through that. I got to get through that. I got to get through that, And who was it? It was Father Seraphim. Um I ran into one of his videos the other day, and it's like, what are the best church fathers to read? And he's like Matthew, Mark, Luke,
John.
John, First Peter, Second Peter,
Yeah.
James, and I was like, duh.
Yeah.
Like I'm reading everything except for what I should be focused on reading.
Yep. I've heard that too, and I think it's probably, well, obviously more prevalent in Orthodoxy than it would be in Protestantism. But like you get so excited about this stuff, it's almost like, ooh, look at the lives of the saints. I have not read any of these. There's hundreds and hundreds. I read the Bible when I was young, but look at all these books over here, and it's like, well, don't forget that one over there too.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. I read the what was it? I read the picture Bible back in the
Yeah.
day.
I still have mine. Yes.
I went to Sunday school and Awanas and all that good jazz when I was growing up. I'm good. I know
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. I've got my John Nelson Darby Schofield picture coloring Bible. I'm
Yeah.
good to go.
Yeah. Schofield coloring Bible. And it's also weird. I don't know if you find yourself in this situation. I'm not as in depth with the Orthodox circles as you are. Like some of the guys I know a little bit off on the side, but I don't really talk to a lot of those guys as far as the podcast world goes. And it's not for any reason. I don't have any issue with the guys. It's just not something that ever comes up. Many of the people that are in my circle are still pretty much the same people that's always been there. And I'll realize like, oh, I'm looking at this and I see like exactly what's going on from a spiritual realm. I can see what the Protestants are saying, what the Jews are saying, and what the Orthodox are saying, and they seem completely lost. It's like the age of revelation, it doesn't it doesn't open everybody's eyes, and
No.
sometimes it's strange
Hmm.
because you have to come to the conclusion that some people are just willfully blind,
Yes.
you
Yes.
know.
It's the eyes to see and ears to hear thing. Um, the pure in heart can see God. Certainly, I'm far from pure and pure of heart, but some of it is that way. And it's interesting when this is like our friend Adam Patrick says, it's not just the age of revelation, it's the age of information. So I understand if like 40 years ago, all there was dispensationalism preaching in our state for the most part in Catholicism. But now when all of this stuff is out there and you're still seeing people like Ted Cruz and Mike Huckabee say these things that it seem very outdated. And I don't mean like they were once correct and outdated. It's just like that just was the default position for a lot of people. But now we're past all of that because things have been revealed. And yet, it's this old battle in my mind of like, is this guy being purpose purposefully deceitful because he's getting paid from somewhere, someone, some country, or is he a nice, honest actor that's just incorrect? and so sure of his own incorrect ideas and opinions on theology that it's going to be hard to break that down. There was a elder on Mount Athos, and I told this story somewhere recently, but he said he was one of these guys. He was the oldest elder, I believe, and I'm bad with names, so of course I forgot his name. But it's one of these guys where people get there at like 5 a.m. and start making a line to talk to him. Well, Father Peter was with us and knew him, so we got sort of a little bit of a quicker. It's like the Disney pass when you buy the thing and you get to cut a little bit. Um, and I'm like, what am I going to ask this guy? Like, this is a once in a lifetime thing. I don't want to sound stupid or ask him a pointless question, but I did say, how do we evangelize the Orthodox faith to evangelicals? And I explained like we're from the South and he understood what it was like. And he said, you don't unless they're ready to hear it. He said, you don't just push your way into a conversation and say, oh, but you're wrong. Here's the real deal. He said, unless they come to you as an honest actor or they really do want to know these things, you don't really evangelize them,
Mm,
which
yeah.
left me a little bit disheartened because it's my parents I was kind of talking about. But all you can do is pray and about it and hope maybe they'll come to you with an open heart and an open mind, like yours did, Lucky. Um, and then the conversation could be had because until then you're getting into an argument with someone who's been elbows, ears, eyeballs deep in that stuff for
Right.
50 years. And here I am, an Orthodox Christian of like 3 years now.
Yeah.
So I could see on paper where my dad would be like, yeah, okay, well, I'm not listening to you on that stuff.
Right. Right. Yeah. You know, what benefited me is my dad and I we're very similar in the way that we process information. So I had already bought a prayer book and an Orthodox study Bible, and I had been going through it trying to see like, okay, like how do they interpret this compared to like what I had been raised, and so whenever I was chrismated and accepted into the church, they gave me a prayer book and an Orthodox study Bible. I already had both of them, so I just gave them to my dad. I was like, here, like I already have this, so you can have that. And he started reading the prayers. And he started asking me questions about like, "Oh, what is this? And we started chatting and he went out and started looking for a church on his own. Yeah.
Okay.
So
So he was not going to a Protestant church at that time?
no, they were involved with a church. I guess I mean, it was definitely Protestant. I think it was a non-denominational church
Yeah.
down here when they lived down here. But when they moved up to Magnolia, they hadn't found a church. I don't even know if they had looked for a church. But then my dad, he started reading, like I said, he started reading the prayers and kind of doing his own research into what orthodoxy was. I gave him the what was the Father Stephen DeYoung book, Religion of the Apostles.
Yep, that's a good one.
Yeah, that was the one that really like grabbed me, and I think it got him too. He was like, "Wait a minute," like,
Okay.
yeah, because the history of it, it was just like all written down, and it was
Right.
like, "Oh, this is easy to follow." Like
Yes.
this, there's no, there's no mystery here as to how we went from, you know, 3 AD to 1900 or 1848 or whatever, whenever the Protestant church began. It was very simple, like, oh, it's just a linear progress, and all that history we hadn't been taught, you
Right.
know. Yeah,
Yeah. I've heard people say either they were in seminary school or some of their peers were in seminary school, like let's say 15, 20 years ago, and they had no idea what the Orthodox Church was after graduating seminary school.
yeah,
And so it's like if they're not teaching it there, I mean, you'd have to go to almost like a world religions course or something like that to have learned about it prior to the age of information. So yeah, I found that interesting. And even my dad, like I said, who's been into Protestantism since I would say for 50 years or so. And when I got into Orthodoxy, he was excited, of course, that I was not a an atheist, and he just said I had to start doing some research. And I called my old pastor and like, what is this? And it's wild to think like these people that were steeped in theology and Protestantism and Christianity didn't have a clue.
Right.
Uh, so now at least though, the bigger the information, the more of it gets out there. That's why you're starting to see the surge at Orthodox churches, along with it being the age of revelation, and bad things happening that make people question things. But it's like, well, now you can find the information really quick in seconds, and especially podcasting, YouTube, it's all over your algorithms now. But yeah, it's wild to think there were so many people that it just went right under the radar for so long.
And it's every time I get like on X or I get on YouTube and I see something Orthodox pop up, I just kind of like I kind of chuckle because it always reminds me of a book I read by what was that guy's name? Clive Barker. So I don't know if you know who Clive Barker is. He wrote Hellraiser, the movie Hellraiser.
Oh, yes. Okay.
Yeah, so he was a fantastic horror writer. He wrote some of the greatest horror books in the world. I would highly recommend him over Stephen King any day of the week. I just love the way he writes. And he had this book he wrote from the first person point of view of a demon called Mr. Begone. And so the demon had to travel up from the ninth circuit of hell to the earth, and he was sent on this mission to go and you're following this demon along in this journey, and he's talking and telling about like all his adventures on earth and blah blah blah. And until the very end of the book, you don't even understand what's going on, like why he's out on this journey. And he's like one of the worst demons. Like nobody likes him. Like all the other demons think, but he was sent on this mission along with many other demons to take hold of the printing press before the
Uh,
angels got it,
uh,
so that the demons could spread their propaganda before that the angels got a printing press of their own.
wow.
And it and
They won. They won, by the way.
yes, well, and the whole thing is I look at it kind of like uh what was it, Prometheus, right? Giving fire to man. Like that whole idea of like all these things, as it says in Genesis, what you meant for evil, God will use for good, right?
Mhm.
And all these things tend to wind up, all these technologies tend to wind up in the pit of hell long before the glory of God like even crosses the threshold. But once it does, it just kind of overwhelms everything else, right? You look at the Bible being the number one selling book ever in the history of the world, since the printing press came in, and think of all the other things that were pushed out there via the printing press. And you can look at the internet the same way, AI the same way, and
Sure.
it's like all going to be used for the for the repentance and salvation of mankind in the long run.
Yeah, in the long run, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, I even things like when you think about how mediums of information were taken over of like VHS won out over beta tapes. Do you remember why?
No, I don't.
The porn industry.
Oh, go
Uh,
figure.
the internet, I think for years, maybe still like the most looked up thing was porn. But if you contrast that with how big orthodoxy's become because of the internet, how mainstream propaganda is really faltering. And so, because of the internet, there is no just three news channels anymore. There's all these other outlets. Tucker Carlson gets fired from mainstream cable news, he blows up much bigger than they are now. And so, yeah, there's always this kind of tension in this back and forth of like good versus evil for all of these information mediums. Probably AI, like you mentioned, is happening too. But yeah, it's fascinating to watch, but it's also sometimes easy to get bogged down in the toxicity of whatever information medium there is. I still I have to curtail my Twitter. You'll start typing a response to someone, and I'm like, this is not a nice thing to say, or there's eyes on your stuff, and I don't want them people to go, oh, look at this Orthodox podcast guy, what a jerk, So I, I get temptations in the same realm, and I just try to pull back and when I can and realize like, look, you can use these things for good. Quit being toxic on there. Um,
Well, and you there's a lot of this. There's a lot of this temptation that's going around, and the larger the Orthodox movement becomes via online, the more the more I see it. Now, I know there's this whole like scandal about calling people ortho bros and blah blah, and I don't like get into that. I don't really care. Like some people are really good and worth your time to listen to, and you can usually tell who they are because a lot of times they're promoted by priests,
mhm,
right? So you'll see like I mean Father Turbo not that long ago did an interview with Jay Dyer,
mhm,
just so to speak. And that's just one person that has kind of like this aura around him that people think, oh, this guy's evil or whatever.
mhm,
But then you get these guys that are converts to Orthodoxy who were already doing like religious channels of some
mhm.
sort, and then they think they can theologize, and it's like, oh, calm down, brother. Like I know
Yep.
you have like ultimately you probably have the best intention at heart, and I'm not even
Yeah.
saying that they're intentionally going out and doing anything wrong. But I mean, it's like I'm reading this book, Orthodox Psychotherapy, and one of the
Oh
big
yeah.
points that it makes, in I think it's chapter 4, it makes talking about theology from an Orthodox lens is directly connected to purification and prayer.
Hmm.
Like you can't be a theologian if you're not like really dug down deep in a strict prayer life and have already reached purification on your way to illumination.
Hmm.
And I think it was Saint Silouan. I believe it was Saint Silouan tells a story of being in church and he's praying and he gets and this light comes out of the icon of Christ and he's just like in awe and he starts talking to the light to the angel that's come out of this icon and he goes around telling all the other fathers about it and what he's seen and the abbot ignores him and like I didn't like whatever I don't care and come come a couple of days later he realized he had fallen into pre-list and this is Saint Silouan like so none of us are exempt from this. And this is in the
No.
middle of a liturgy this happens to the saint. So like I think that it's very like I try to be very careful in like when I'm expressing my own opinions.
Yeah.
It's like if I'm reading you something, I didn't say this. This is straight from the church, from the saints, from the fathers. I'm not, that's not my opinion. I'm not going to give you my opinion on these stories, on what this says. Like you get what God intends you to get out of it. Those are his words to you. But when it comes to me discussing things like when John and I talked on the last podcast, he had put on uh on Twitter that I had theologized. I was like, no, I'm a
Oh,
layman.
no,
No,
no, no, no.
I
Right.
was not theologizing. I was all opinions are my own. I do not represent the church.
Right. I know it's a funny and weird spot to be in for people like you or myself and people we're friends with too that have somewhat of an orthodox flavored podcast, and yet we're not priests. We can't speak for the church. We're too young in the church and not purified enough to theologize and try to teach. That'd be the last thing I'd be doing is
Yes.
me personally, the Orthodoxy Hour with Buck Johnson, which is why if I'm going to get into any heavy topics like that, it's always with someone who should be able to do that. But
Right.
it's a funny because you and I used to both talk politics. That's a little bit of a different story, right? You can go on and we can do a political podcast and you can give all sorts of opinions on that because that's not a holy topic. But what we've entered into now is has carries so much more weight, and it's so much bigger and so much more important that yeah, I need we need guardrails to that you can bump up against
Yeah.
to make sure we don't go into the wrong lane.
Yeah, well, and just for anybody who thinks that I am some sort of teacher, that is incorrect. I am not a teacher. I have been divorced twice. I am not allowed to be a teacher. Like it will never happen. I will not be a priest. I will not be a monk. I will never be ordained in any way in the Orthodox Church. And if I ever tell you otherwise, I am lying. Like, because
Don't be fooled by his long hair and beard, ladies and gentlemen.
yes, yes, I had this long before I found Orthodoxy.
Yeah.
This was a Beatrix thing. This was not a religious thing.
It just happens to fit very nicely now.
Yeah, my dad told me when he discovered the church, he goes, I thought there was something wrong with you with that beard and that hair. And then I joined the Orthodox Church and I'm like, well, Tommy had it right the whole time.
Yeah, exactly. Looks around like maybe there's something wrong with me. What the heck? Yeah.
Yeah. But this is the strange part of this conversation though, is like the way that the religious aspect crosses into the political. And it's
Yes.
so hard to discern like where do I cut off what I'm supposed to say here, like about dispensationalism or about Orthodox eschatology, right? Which if you want to listen to that, Father Peter Hears does a lot on that.
Yes.
He'll
Yeah.
tell you all about it. Um, Church of the Eternal Logos also has done several streams on that, which are very interesting and very good. But and but so it's like when you're looking and you're like, yeah, the age of revelation, I'm seeing this stuff and I'm able to like put these dots together and I'm like, man, and the first thing I did with the whole Iran war is I started Googling Turkey.
Yep.
Like that was the first thing I saw. I was like, what is Erdogan doing?
Yes. Because the saints in our church and faith talk about that specific subject.
Right.
And when I heard that guy from Israel, I know DPH played his quote, but I'm sure you've seen it around saying like how Turkey's the next Iran.
Yeah.
And you're like, oh my. It is a little like, uh-oh, because
Yeah.
this is talked about in this with the saints in the
Yes.
eschatological visions of the blessed.
Yeah. Yeah, and that I mean immediately I was just like, okay, what's going on with Turkey?
Hmm.
And then I start looking and it's like Erdogan already announced, I don't know if you're aware of this, but he announced, I think it was in 2024, he announced that he will not be running uh for re-election after this term, which is up in 2028.
Ooh, I didn't know
Yeah.
that.
Yeah. Well, I didn't know that until this all popped off and I started searching and Googling and I was like, what, okay, what's going on with Erdogan? Then I heard yesterday, no, 2 days ago, I think it was, I heard somebody mention something about Greece and Turkey
Mm,
and tensions starting to flare up again over Cyprus. And
yes.
I was like, ugh.
Yeah.
I was like, golly, man.
Yeah. Okay, the end of the world is coming, folks. That's what we said earlier. It's coming.
Well, it's gonna come. I mean, there's no doubt about it. Like, and that's the thing. That's one of the okay, so that's one of the brilliant things about the way that things are laid out. And I don't know if you've noticed this. This is something I was like reflecting on yesterday a little bit. And it was like, it's like if you read like Revelation and you pay attention to like the what the fathers say, like the church fathers say, if you pay attention to what the saints are saying, and you look around and you're like, okay, I recognize, let's say COVID, for instance. I recognize this. Okay. I think it was St. Paisios in the 90s warned us about a virus of
Yep.
this nature, and they were going to come up with a vaccine that was actually going to do more harm than good. Like, all right,
Mm-hmm.
so okay, so we see this, and it's happening right before us, and it happened, and we can't deny that it happened. So it's like okay, and then when you read their writings, the next sentence is like, then World War III starts with blah blah blah, and you're
Yeah.
like, okay, but then but then you look at it in real time and the way that it's playing out, and you're like, oh, like, yeah, that's where their repentance takes place. It's like,
Yeah.
okay, I told you about this virus, and then the repentant, like, then you can see like people like you and me are pulled into repentance and pulled into the. It's like, oh, and then 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 years later down the road, something else happens. So
Hmm.
it's like when Father Seraphim Rose was saying, yeah, it's later than you think. Like, yeah, we can all say it's later than we think, and we can go back into, history and start tracing these moments in time, but you can see these gaps where it's like God's
Yep.
allowing grace. He's like,
Yep.
okay, okay. I
Yep.
heard I think it was Father Andrew Stephen Damick was on a podcast with a deacon who's actually a data scientist. When
Yeah.
would
Deacon Seraphim.
not it could very well be Deacon
I'm pretty
Seraphim.
sure I think that's what he is, a data scientist.
Okay, so this was before I was on vacation, so I was driving. So there's some of it I picked up, some of it I didn't, because obviously I'm working. But they were talking about like on the current trajectory, if people don't start dropping out of the Orthodox Church in America at the current trajectory, I think he said in 10 years, the Orthodox Church will be at 4 million.
Wow.
Yeah. And right now we're at like 200 something thousand,
Yeah. Yeah.
230,000, something like that. So like in 10 years, he said it would be like 4 million, and we would need somewhere close to like 5,000 more churches to, and then you think of all the priests and, the clergy that would come along with that would have to, and I, I've been hearing people talk about a clergy shortage, and I'm like,
Yeah.
like, okay, so pray about it. Like,
Yep.
this isn't our problem to fix,
Right.
right? So why are we concerned with it? Like, why would we? Because I know, like, we just opened another missionary. Well, we didn't open another missionary church. We expanded the current missionary that we had in Lake Charles. They moved it into a permanent building. They got it out of the shopping center because it was like literally next door to a liquor store in a shopping center in Lake Charles. But now it's in Westlake. It's got its own building, and I talked to the deacon who's doing the Trisagion there on Sundays, and he's like, "Yeah, I mean, we're exploding." And
Wow.
just
Good.
just in like a 6 month period, they're seeing like a growth of, I think he said 40 new people started coming in like 6 months.
Wow. Good for them.
Yeah, and they don't even have a priest there.
And they're not
Father,
even next to the liquor store anymore.
nope, not anymore. Father Michael goes down like one Saturday every month and serves liturgy, and that's the only liturgy they have unless they drive up to Beaumont.
Right. Okay. Okay.
Yeah. So
It's happening though. Father Peter is looking at expanding and building a mission in Central Texas. It's still nothing set in stone yet, no pun intended. But we have this meeting, and there's people like trying to come up with ideas, and some were legitimate, as far as kind of coordinating meetings and talking to new people. But overall, Father Peter, like you just said, he was like, guys, the number one thing to do is just pray.
yeah,
Pray, and this will either work out as it should in God's will, or if it's not in God's will, then it won't end up here. But don't put too much overthinking and stress on, like, we got to do this, we got to find this, we got to do that. He's like, just pray, just keep praying about this, and it's going to work.
right, right. And I mean, it's so good that like that he's found a bishop, and
Yeah, no kidding.
it's gonna work out, however it's supposed to. Excuse me. And I know Father Joseph has known Father Peter for like 30 years.
A long time
They're
ago.
very close friends.
Yes, I found a magazine when I was at Father Peter's house in the place he still has in Greece, and he had this old, gosh, I wish I could. It was like the Orthodox Word, but it wasn't that. It was something else from the 90s, and it said, um, it was like Reader Peter hears or something like that. He was like, it was something way low, maybe he wasn't even clergy yet, but he was on the staff. And
Mhm.
sure enough, then it said Father Joseph Honeycutt. Like he is old school. And he was like, oh yeah, I've known him for decades and decades.
Yeah.
Pretty
Yeah.
cool.
I know Father Joseph and I have talked about their friendship for, quite a few times. And yeah, he catches some flack for his relationship with Father Peter, but
Oh,
I
I'm sure.
think I wonder I wonder if watching a Father Peter's situation over the last couple of years, if that's similar to like a man of God situation, right?
It reminded me, there were
There are
elements of that.
moments,
Yeah.
yeah, there are moments where you're like, huh, I wonder what
Yeah.
I'm looking at here. And it's so hard because I don't understand the political side of the church at all. I don't have any desire to learn it. Like honestly, just to be honest, I'm just like I'm a layman, I'm clergy. I just want to go and worship and
Right.
like I don't want to be involved or thinking about all that other stuff. I don't need something else on my plate.
Right. Yeah. And I don't think that's necessarily even our place to overly concern ourselves about. I think if you asked Father Joseph, like, what can I do to help Father Peter, blah, 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 if he was trying to find a bishop or, the answer would be like, you don't do anything,
Yeah.
right? Like you
Right.
come to liturgy.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, I think there's also that temptation for young people in the church, not young people by age, to I have a godson who is a catechumen and he loves Father Peter. And he said, man, I would see these people leaving comments that were like haters. And he goes, a few times I wanted to respond and go, dude, why don't you meet me in a parking lot and I'll kick your ass? And I was like, you don't need to do any of
Yeah, we
that.
don't need to do
Yeah, it's okay.
that.
Father Peter's going to be okay. Trust me.
Yeah, it's not necessary. I like the spunk though.
Yeah, yeah. I love his youthful vigorance. Or yeah, but
Yeah, it's totally unnecessary. And then and you'll notice sometimes too. Do you ever notice that some priests are more reticent to discuss like the happenings of the day and the politics around things? They
yes.
just want to, and I don't really know if that's a conscious decision. I guess it has to be on some. I know Father Josiah is pretty open about discussing when he sees something, but it seems like some priests just shy away from that. Maybe they don't want to, push away any audience whatsoever, and they think, and they're probably right in some way that if you get people to Christ, all that other stuff kind of falls to the wayside.
Hopefully, right.
Yeah.
Because I mean, to for me, to a pretty significant extent, I don't care about the day-to-day occurrences as nearly as much as I used to. I used to be obsessed with that sort of thing. And now, I had a friend the other day tell me, about a month out, hey, you excited about the midterms? And I didn't even know they were happening. And midterms, yeah, see, it's slipping my mind. The primaries are March 2nd or 3rd or something like that. I Well, I didn't vote in them. This was prior to them happening, and I thought, I don't really care. I mean, I honestly didn't know they were happening. Now I understand. I think there's something coming up in November, where I expect the Republicans to lose the actual midterms. But yeah, it's just funny how I was so obsessed with that stuff for so long. And here I was, I didn't know the primaries were happening, and then I failed to even do anything about it. But
Yeah.
it didn't matter to me that much like it
Yeah,
used
I
to.
still I still pay attention. Like I listen to Two Way every morning.
Okay.
It's Mark Halperin, his show. And
Yeah.
he usually has like one Republican, one Democrat on, and they kind of like just discuss the happenings from different perspectives. And he had been talking about the Texas primary, and I was like, When is this?" And then he mentioned that I think Ken Paxton came in second to John Cornyn, And
Isn't there a runoff or something?
yeah, they're supposed to run off, I think in May, April or
Okay.
May, something
Okay.
like that. And so it's Ken Paxton, John Cornyn in a runoff, and then that oh, what's his name? Tercerius or whatever that guy's name that
Uh-huh. The guy that beat the black chick.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
he beat her, Jasmine Crockett,
Yeah. And
which
his name's like, see, I can't even think of it, but
it's
Tellerico or something like that.
something like that. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
something like
I
that.
had actually heard DPH, one of his super chats or something mentioned that guy. And I thought the name sounds familiar. And then DPH was like, I don't know who that is. And then the guy had mentioned it. And then DPH said, oh, he was, I guess, in certain like real liberal churches, Protestant churches, teaching the Gospel of
Yeah,
Thomas
he's a preacher. Yeah, he
or
was
something
teaching the
like
guy.
that,
Yeah,
and how it
yeah,
relates to trans kids. And I thought, that's more than I really needed to know about this dude, but that's
that checks
fascinating.
out.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not
Yeah,
surprised by any means. But yeah, what a mess.
yeah.
What a
Go
mess. And
figure.
then yeah. I hope Cornyn loses, but again, there's me jumping right back into it a little bit, but overall, it's not as important at all as it used to be to me.
Yeah, yeah. My only interest was to see Ken Paxton beat Cornyn.
Yeah.
That was really all I really cared about. And then I was hoping that Jasmine Crockett beat that guy because
I was
she's just
too.
hilarious to listen to.
Yeah. For the
Like,
entertainment value.
yeah, you can't take her seriously. It's just like, all
No.
right, like whatever. But I
Yeah.
knew she would win because the first thing she did when she announced she was running for Senate was say that she's running for Senate in the racist state of Texas. And I'm
Yeah,
like,
that's great.
well, you're not going to win now.
Yeah. Yeah. And what a genius setup. And when I don't win, it's not because I'm dumb or that I just said that. It's because I'm right. Texas is racist. It's
Right.
just
Yeah. Yeah. And it was just kind of like, okay, like whatever. So, do you what concerns you most about what we're seeing with the war in Iran, the kind of I guess you would call it MAGA or right wing or Republican Civil War, whatever. It's so uncomfortable to look at, like all of it for me. It's kind of like, okay, like what are we doing? I don't even understand what's happening.
that's a good question. The thing that worries me or concerns me the most, I mean, that they're going to have nukes involved would be a big concern. Um,
See, I hadn't even thought that. I hadn't even thought
that
about that.
the economic aspect of what's going to happen is going to hurt normal people that shouldn't be hurt by such a ridiculous disaster. Those are concerns. I think there's a lot of silver linings to be had as well, though. I mean, also a concern, I should say, since it's akin to my job, is the blowback that's happening and will continue to happen in America, like that shooting down in Austin the day after the war started. So I don't want any innocent people to get caught up in some sort of blowback or false
Right.
flag, whatever it may be. So those are always concerns. The silver linings are how much bad the people that are revealing their true nature um, are putting out there. Ted Cruz, like all the names, the Zionist people. Every time they say something on Twitter, you can look under it, and the pushback is just brutal, and it's 99 to 1. And so that's a good thing. The more they expose how grotesque their ideology is, I think um, within the age of revelation, a lot of people start to wake up. And I've had so many normies from work and just other aspects of my life say like, what's this Israel stuff's really bothersome. I thought like they were supposed to be great and everything they're doing is evil. And so that's just coming out there in popular culture and discussions way more than it used to be. I hope that it doesn't swing too hardcore to where, you don't want to see like random Jewish guys getting lynched or something
Right. Yeah.
taken to that extreme, because then that is going to push back the other way. But anytime governors are trying to prop up anti-Semitic laws,
Mhm.
That's getting massive pushback, and I think that's all good. It's a good thing, even though I don't want to use children and victims of Epstein stuff for political gain. I would never want to do that. But I think the cover up was so obvious to people now, normies,
Mhm.
that even that sort of thing, people are starting to go, wait a second, Epstein, what was that about? And then they look into it. Oh, that Pizzagate stuff. They told me that was some crazy guy who was going to shoot up a basement. Wait a sec, why does it say pizza so many times in these emails? So just little things trickle out like that, and it affects and wakes up a large amount of people.
I just I worry about the information dump, right? And I guess this is what's always meant by the remnant
Hmm.
is there are going to be some people that take the information properly and they act in the correct way. They move closer to God. Like I said, they seek salvation, they seek repentance in these times. But then I I worry about the opposite effect all this information has being dumped and it awaking monsters in so many people.
Yeah,
And that the blowback that we're going to see is going to be much more vicious and volatile and more rampant and a lot more innocent people are going to die for the crimes of the elites.
that's a very valid concern. Yeah, it's a good point too. It's the vengeful son
Yes.
that Jason talks about a lot because I mean, we all have that in us.
Yes.
And there's things where I hear a news story or see a picture or something from those files and like yeah, this surge of like violence comes through you and you're like, oh, if I could catch that motherfucker. But
Right.
then you're like, hold on, like not how you process this information.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's it's so out there now that it is tough to sort of, my dad used to sit in front of Fox News and whenever a trans story came on about what they're doing to kids in some school, he would just get red-faced and start cursing. And it's like those things are very easy to trigger us. And you don't want to be like the BLM people when you see a black guy that's on drugs fight cops and then get beat up or something. And then all of a sudden, well, I'm going to go tear down the town and burn. It's like that's the worst, that's the dumbest possible reaction you could have to that. But unfortunately, it's the most inflamed with passions that we all get, and that's sort of the fallen human nature is to have that reaction. So part of being in the church, I think, especially during Lent, is to sort of um, put a damper on that sort of reactive nature that's within us.
Mhm.
And if we can do without meat and wine or whatever for so long, maybe that can teach us to like put a just a damper over like these passions that are, if you can't go without a steak for a week, what's going to happen when, you know, the first thing you see pisses you off on the news and it's down the street from me. I'm going to go out and, and really let them know how, like, there's this sense of like calm down, think, process, pray, and then respond, hopefully not in the way that you might have wanted to initially.
Yeah. Yeah. Sometimes it's better not to respond. One of the books Father Turbo has me reading is Ecclesiastes,
Hmm.
and it's like, oh, I see why you told me to read this.
Yeah, tell me about this.
So the book, like, I mean, it's Ecclesiastes is a short book. It's only 12 chapters, and they're short chapters. Um, it's the third book of Solomon. So Solomon wrote Proverbs, the
Yeah.
Song of Solomon, and then he wrote Ecclesiastes. And so Ecclesiastes is supposed to be the last book he wrote. So Proverbs apparently he wrote when he was young, and then Song of Solomon he wrote in his middle ages, and then Ecclesiastes he wrote when he was older. And and the general, I mean, like really the general concept is everything in this world is vanity. And the more you focus on this world, the more vain that you become. And and I think it was chapter 5 starts off and it's like be slow to speak.
Yes.
Sometimes don't say anything. Sometimes it's better just to keep your mouth shut. And I was like, yeah, I probably need to hear that because I do
I do
shoot off
too.
at the mouth.
Too. Yeah.
Yeah,
And I catch myself sometimes after it happens because I'm so chill and then something triggers me in a discussion or whatever with someone and it like my heart rate's elevated and it's like why do words do that to me? Uh,
right,
and it's like I don't need it's there's a vanity aspect to it like I need to tell them the truth because they don't know it and you've got me real riled up right now and I know the real stuff and I'm shut up and let me talk and it's like shh me shut up you shut up Buck look in the mirror shh
right.
I need to do that more often.
Yeah. And so yeah, we were chatting the other day. He's like, "You need to read Ecclesiastes." I was like, "Okay, I guess I shall start."
That's good
So
medicine.
yeah, yeah, and but that's the number one thing is like we all have to realize that like you know that we all have a long way to go, right? And
Yeah.
we're not there yet. And some people would look at like you and I and be like, wow, they're Orthodox, they got this figured out. And it's like, no, I don't have anything figured out
Yeah.
every day. And I think that was one of the things that I think that I took that in a bitter way when I became an adult. When I realized that all the adults in my life had no idea what they were talking about, it embittered me. It made me angry. It's like you talk to me in such a way that you're so certain. And then I look, and then I get like into my 30s and 40s, and I'm like, okay, when does this esoteric knowledge that all these adults have been using to
When do
raise
I
me?
get it?
Yeah,
Yeah.
when does this come in? When does this come into play? And it's like, oh, that's never been real.
Nope.
It's
Flying
all
by the seat of their pants.
experiences, and you're just trying to figure out and you're weighing the good with the bad and just being like, oh, here's the best advice I can give you. But I got to say it like I'm sure of myself to get you
Yep.
to think I'm smarter than you, you
Yep.
know?
Yeah. Yep. There's even that tactic, and this is not a manipulation tactic, but we use it in the fire department. We tell the young guys like that are still new and don't know all the things yet. When we go on a medical call or a car wreck and you're talking to a patient, to them, you might as well have been like the best in your class and been working here 10 years. They don't know what you don't know. So at least act like you're pretty sure of yourself and walk in with confidence and you speak like that and the people that assume you know more than they do about your job, we're just going to go, okay, yeah, he's a professional. So
Right.
it's sort of that like when you're a parent, I guess, like I at least know more than you. And if I don't, I'm going to pretend like I do and say it with authority. And until you're 30, you're going to think I do, you know?
Right. Yeah. And it's like, I mean, as a father with all my kids in their 20s, I mean, I run into stuff all the time, and I like one of my son called me a couple of weeks ago. It's like he texted me. He's like, "Dad, I need you to call me. I can't deal with this life shit." And I have to act like I know what I'm talking about, like
Yeah.
and I tell him, I'm like, "Dude, I am clueless here. Here's the way I think about it."
Hmm.
And I'll just be on it up front with him because I'm like, I'm not going to lie to you about I know more than you. It's like I'll point you next Sunday, I'm going to meet with him. Actually, we're going to go to St. Jonah's next Sunday
Oh,
uh,
nice.
to introduce him to Father John because there are things that he's dealing with. And I'm like, I mean, I don't know the right answers for you on all these things. I get where you're coming from, but I don't have all the answers.
Yep.
I was like, so let's go meet with somebody who can give you some spiritual guidance too,
Yep. Yeah, for
you
sure.
know? Because it's like what am I supposed to do with
Right.
this? I can tell you what I know,
Yep.
but I might screw you up,
Right. Yep.
So, and it's one of those things. I think that made me so angry whenever I probably about like mid 30s. That was one of the things that made me angriest about like life in general. Was like, and that I think that's why I just turned away from religion. I was going through my second divorce and I was like, it doesn't matter how much I pray, it doesn't matter what I do. None of this matters. Like what everybody has the same solution. It's like your solution doesn't work, so screw it. I'm just going to go do my own thing because you don't know what you're talking about.
Hmm. Very familiar. Yes, I know that well. I know that feeling well. I went through the same thing. But I was taught religion by Pastor John Hagee. And so you start to see people speak in tongues in this church, and then he's the only one with knowledge to interpret it. And you hit a certain age and you're like, that's not real. Come on. Someone just stands up and starts doing blah, 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 because they were inspired somehow. And Hagee's the only person out of 4,000 people that translates it. Give me a break. And so that pushed me into like, well, that's bullshit. Like, if
Yeah.
that's Christianity, then I'm out.
Yeah, I remember one time there was a it was a traveling charismatic church that had popped up next to my aunt's, like across the street from my aunt's house in Nowhereville, Louisiana. So off of Topsy Bell Road, if anybody knows where that is, it's out in the middle of nothing. And it had popped up out there, and my cousin and I, they were doing a late night service one night, and we had been running around in the woods and catching crawfish and just doing kid stuff. We were young. We were probably, I don't know, 9, 10 years old, something like that. And we decided to pop into here. And so they're doing the whole laying on hands and people are falling over and stuff like that. So I was like, hey, check this out. So I go up there and I'm like,
Ah, you did?
I'm a sinner. And he put his hand on me and I was like, oh my God. And I ran around the church and jumped over chairs and people were celebrating. I was like, it's all a game.
You're like, I'm just acting like an idiot. You guys.
Yeah,
Oh
I'm being
man.
I'm being a kid just jumping
Yeah.
around like, hey, well, if y'all can have fun, I can too.
Right.
And it was like I was immediately turned off from charismatic churches from that point on. Like I would never, if you told me you spoke in tongues, I would laugh at you and like make gibberish noises at you. I just like, nah, that ain't
Yep.
real.
Yep.
And that's what that pushed me like directly into like kind of the Southern Baptist kind of movement because I was anti-pope and I was anti-charismatic. And so that put me right there in the middle of the Southern Baptist, non well, like in the church, non-denominational churches I went to, I know there are some out there that are more charismatic. None of the
Yeah.
ones I went to were charismatic. They
Right.
were all more Southern Baptists than they were non-denominational. They wouldn't even call themselves non-denominational. They would call themselves Bible churches.
Oh gosh, I'm familiar. Yeah. Yeah. I need to let that pet peeve dissolve out of my system. My church just follows the Bible, as if mine doesn't. But yeah, let that go. Let that go. But yeah, I'm
It
familiar.
reminds me, remember that meme of the gun on the table? I'm sitting here watching the gun, waiting on it to kill somebody.
Yes. Yes.
It's like that's how I feel about somebody saying I follow the Bible. It's like, okay, I
Yeah.
put the Bible on the table. I'm waiting on it to lead me somewhere.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know?
Exactly.
So,
Yeah.
because it didn't matter. Like one of the largest turnoffs for me was being in the Protestant church was they actually put me in charge of teaching. Like I have no
Really?
degree. Yeah, I was considered the youth pastor's assistant at one point teaching like 14 and 15-year-olds.
That
And
is
I
wild.
and I was
Imagine,
like,
imagine if your Orthodox church right now were like, "Hey, Tommy, on Sunday at coffee hour, you're going to take the catechumens and teach them for 30 minutes." I'd be like, "No, no, no, I'm not."
well, and I
Like,
was arrogant enough to go like, well, I can do that. And
yeah,
they didn't even give me verses or anything. I had to come up with my own stuff. So like I would just like Saturday I'd be watching UFC scanning the Bible trying to find verses I wanted to talk about.
yeah,
And then I would just like take these verses and go, okay, well like you can take like let's say like the idea of when Peter um rejects Christ 3 times
mhm,
and then he goes fishing. And I'm like, yeah, you can take that as like you're going to turn back to those sins that you were so familiar with if you when you have those moments of weakness, but don't be dismayed. Look at what God did with Peter. And I just turned it into a
Yeah.
life lesson. It was like more like self-help. It was like using the Bible for self-help. That's all I
Yeah.
could do with it because
Yeah. Well,
I'm not a theologian.
that's what a lot of pastors still do with it.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah. I used to have a whole routine where I would imitate like, let me see your hands if you've had a rough week and you've thought, God, I don't know if I can still stand by you after all of this I've been through. Let me see your hands. Well, brothers and sisters, you're here today with us, and God has a plan for you. You know, that kind of thing. You could
yeah,
just sort of riff and just make up a bunch of stuff.
yeah, yeah. And it was just weird. It was like and that's when I really started losing faith in the church. I was like, do I even believe in this?
Right,
Like,
right.
because like this is just a self-help manual to me.
Atheist factory is what I call them.
Well, right. No, I'm not even talking about the church. I'm talking about the Bible. I was just looking at
Oh,
it as a self-help manual. It
yeah,
wasn't like it didn't do anything for me anymore. It was just like,
right.
and with the context that the church gives it and in the understanding, like listening to Lord of Spirits for the 2 years that I haven't listened to him in a while, but when I was listening to him and getting that history lesson, the context of the Jewish culture at the time these things were coming out and understanding this is why they were talking about this. This is why this word was used. This is why they did it make sense. It made it
Mhm.
real. I was like, "Oh, I get it. I get why
Yep.
that's there." Because it was like always like you could just put the Old Testament aside because none of that makes sense.
Hmm.
It was we were never like it was an understanding and everybody like knew like, yeah, that's Jesus walking with Adam and Eve in the garden. Like we knew,
Oh,
but
seriously. See, we didn't even, I never was even taught that. I thought for a long time, like, until I was Orthodox, and they taught me, like, no, the Trinity was there from the beginning. And it's like, what?
yeah,
That's not what I was taught. I thought it was the God, the vengeful Father, and Christ doesn't come along at all in the Bible till the New Covenant, the New Testament. And then you're like, and they're like, no, look, here's this, there's this. Why didn't anyone tell me this? There was,
right.
those sort of things.
Yeah, yeah. No, yeah, I know. And I know there's a lot of people that have that experience, but we did actually like talk that it's Christ that's talking to Moses face to face and blah blah.
Yeah, right.
We understood those types of things like and that was but there wasn't a lot of reading out of the Old Testament. It wasn't part of a lectionary or anything like that.
Right.
You weren't encouraged to read the Old Testament. Nobody ever talked about the importance of the Old Testament except for Proverbs. That was it. It was like you can read one proverb every day, and for
Hmm.
30 days and that'll make your month and you should do that every month. And it was
Hmm.
like, all right, whatever. And but nobody does it. I mean, I guess some people do, but most people are like, yeah, whatever. Like I'll go to church and get my New Testament like revival preaching, and then I'll go home and I'll be all fired up for the week. And by Tuesday, I feel like I've been run over by a truck.
Yep.
And then I'm just like, okay, I just have to make it till Sunday so I can get all fired up again.
Hmm.
And that's what it was. It was getting a motivational speech. Like when I was young, I had gotten involved with Amway
Hmm.
and I went to one of their conferences. Oh, it was so much fun. Dude, it was fun. Like I think who spoke there? I don't remember anybody. Oh, it was Kurt Warner.
Really,
Who?
that does not surprise me in the
Yeah,
least.
because it was
Being
in St. Louis.
well, I'm a lifelong football fan, as you know, and I'm very familiar with him and his wife. That does not surprise me that he spoke at that.
Yeah, I was there. Yeah, I was a football fan at this time, and but there was this one guy, and he was hilarious. This black guy, he was so much fun. But he had this. I think you can find it online. He did this whole thing. It's not over until I win. And it was so much it's just everybody's just yeah, it was just like you're ready to run out of a locker room and run over
Yeah,
your enemy. And
yeah,
that's all it was just motivational speeches, and that's what you would get at church a lot of the times. It was
yeah,
just motivation to get you through the week you
yeah.
know
Right.
and then they
Stories to get you emotional and have some sort of self-relation to what
yeah,
they're ta oh, that's me. It's like when they read a horoscope, like, wait a second. Yeah, that oh, that is me this week or something. Yeah, that really gets me fired up. And it's playing on your emotions it's such a thing that demons can do and twist them. So, I mean, even like the prelest from this, was it Saint Silouan?
Yeah.
Uh, like that sort of thing, so easy to twist. And I remember I had what I would call a small spiritual miracle once I became Orthodox and was praying, and I texted my godfather immediately, and it was so I was like disappointed in how like level he was about it because I'm like, this is crazy. And he's all, oh, looks like someone loves you. And that was it. And I told my priest, and he was like, oh, yeah, that's neat. Instead of like this firing me up and like, oh
Yeah.
man, Christ was talking to me or something like that, because that's how you get played real easily.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and it becomes like you become prideful around it. Like, oh,
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
special.
Yeah.
I'm
Oh, God.
special.
Yep. This is working. I must be becoming a great man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Because I mean, I've had a couple of things happen and I would talk to my priest and my priest would be like, yeah, I've heard of this and it's beautiful. And I'd be like, all
Yep.
right, cool.
Yep.
All right, cool. But then still in the time, you're just like, what is God doing with me? Like,
Mm.
there must be something for me. And then it turns you around 180. And next thing you know, you're like, oh, wait. Where am I at? Like, what am
Uh-huh.
I doing? You know? And then you got to repent. Oh, I was prideful, you know?
Yep.
I
Yep.
mean, I think that's like what I repent of, like what I confess most is pride and vengeance. Like,
Mm.
because I, I still hold on to a lot of bitterness, you know.
Mhm.
I mean, I'm sure a lot of it's gone. My mom has told me that several times. She's like, you're a different person. But I mean, there's a lot to work through. And we all have scars. And the longer you wait to do this, the harder it is.
No.
So, so have children in the church,
Yeah,
baptize them
that's right.
early. Because the longer you wait, the harder it is.
Yeah, it's
You
like trying to
know,
learn Spanish or something when you're 50. Good luck.
yes, yeah. And so yeah, I definitely can see that, the when you do have something happen, don't don't get too excited about it
Hmm.
because it's bound to happen, to everybody at some point. Something is bound to happen. Don't get too crazy with it because
Yeah.
it can mess you up.
Yeah. It ain't your trophy for winning some badass race or something that you got to go brag about and show everyone. Guess what
Right,
that? Yeah.
right. It's like I remember you talking about when you read God's revelation of the human heart, getting that feeling like in the pit
Hmm.
of your stomach. And I still to this day get that every time I go to liturgy and just about every time I pray. And I just remind myself, I'm like, that's not God telling me I'm special. That's my noose being purified.
Hmm.
That's me being cleansed
Hmm.
of all
Like a
the
windshield wiper dusting some stuff.
right. That's me being cleansed of all the gunk I've picked up over the years.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
that's not showing me how good I am. That's showing me how bad I am.
That's a great way to put it. Yeah, that's right. That's right. Yeah, no
Oh,
saint. No one on Athos walks around like, I'm holier than you. You should pray more like I do. I'm more blessed than you are. Like it's just, that's not a thing.
well, you wouldn't even be attracted to that monk. You'd be
No.
like, okay.
Yeah. What's this dude? Yeah. You would immediately think like he's been possessed or something like,
Yeah. Like,
yeah.
yeah. There was something else I wanted to bring up. Oh shit, we've already been going an hour and a half, man. Um, there was something else I wanted to bring up before we go.
Hmm.
I was thinking about it the other day. I was reading something and it kind of goes back to your story with about playing Would You Rather with Father Peter. And I was thinking like these saints, the way they die and the way they choose to die and what they choose to die for. Like so many people in our world are so worried about what they're living for that nobody seems concerned about what they're willing to die for.
Hmm.
And it's like if you focus on what's worthy of dying for, that will direct your life.
Hmm.
If you point yourself in the right direction. Like, I'm willing to die for that. So that's what I'm going to walk towards. That
Uh-huh.
will create the path of living for you.
Dang, that's a great point. Right. Because a lot of us, I think if you boil it down, a lot of people are going to go, well, I live for myself and
Mm,
to some extent. And that's obviously a very shallow thing. And once negative things start happening to the self or that you get a bad reputation with some people, that's where people start to become suicidal. It's like, well, then if that's what I was living for is to be popular or be loved by people, and now they hate me or I got fired, so they think I suck. I guess that's it.
right.
And yeah, that's a great point. Like if you're living or you would die for Christ, then that kind of shows you the path of how you should be living.
Mm,
Because you wouldn't,
yeah.
right? I wouldn't die. And I know I have maybe an unrighteous disdain for like the military industrial complex, but I'm not dying for the United States government. I'm just not. I don't
Right.
have that in me. So I'm not living for it either. And that's why politics is not my idol. It's not my first care, and it's not in the forefront of my mind anymore because I wouldn't die for it. So I'm not going to live for it.
Well, what I was, reading the prologue and the lives of the saints, it got me thinking about that because I was like, it was a while back. I was thinking, I was like, when I was paying child support, even though I wasn't like raising my kids like daily, I wasn't in the house with them every day. I had a purpose. I had something to live for. And that was like that was my only focus. That's all I did. It didn't matter what was going on. I was banging away. And then there was that period after I had paid up on child support between then and me discovering the church that I was like aimless. It was just, I was kind of like drifting and it was like,
Hmm.
I mean, I would work around the yard. I'd have my chickens, my dogs, like whatever. But it wasn't like any like set purpose in life. There was nothing really driving me at all. And then through COVID, discovering the church, all that, I discovered a new drive
Hmm.
and that drive to first of all wrap my mind around what the hell I was looking at and then trying to figure out, okay, how do I do this? If I'm going to do this, like how do I do it? And like to this day, like I think I told you this last year, but it's like when Lent comes around, I get excited
Hmm.
because I know like
I
it
heard you
doesn't
say
matter.
that this year on
Yeah, no
something.
matter how far I've drifted off throughout the year, I know this is my moment to reset and we do it as a whole.
Yeah,
Like
every
everybody's doing it. And so that there's that support there. You can feel that support because everybody's doing it. And, throughout the year, we're all throwing different curveballs and moving in different directions, and things go wrong for some of us. Some people's mothers die. You don't want to talk to them about your problems because,
yeah,
they
yeah,
have like much worse things going on. And so Lent is that one time that collectively we all come together and we're all like supporting each other. And not to say that that support's not there throughout the year. I find it very uncomfortable to to burden people with things. Like it's like if I have a problem, then I'll figure it out. It's my problem. And I've always been like that. Yeah.
Gen X. That's a Gen
Yeah.
X trait. Me too.
Yeah, I think pride is our generation's
Yeah.
biggest issue. But so Lent gives you that opportunity to like reset and kind of, okay, we're all focused, we're all like back on track, back on focus. And so, but that's what I found with Orthodoxy. It's given me that drive, that purpose once again that I had when I was paying child support, making sure my
Hmm.
kids,
Hmm.
like I was so excited when I stopped paying child support. And then like within like 3, 4 months, I was just kind of like, all right, life's kind of meaningless now. Like, what am I
Yeah,
doing?
right. Back with meaning now. That's good.
Right. Yeah. So who was that I was reading earlier? It might have been The Life of Saint Pachomios. I did a chapter. I just released it right before we came on today. I did chapters 34 through 43 on the life of Saint Pachomius because I haven't been able to read for like 2 weeks. And he's talking about, I think it was that, where he's talking about the purpose of life is to discover your love for God, that God's love is great and consequential, whereas man's love is minuscule and inconsequential, but God still craves our love despite how inconsequential it is.
That's good.
Yeah, I thought that was a really good one. But I don't know. You got anything you want to close on?
No, this has been, it's just
We,
like we're talking on the phone. It's been pretty
yeah,
easy
this is
still.
just like chill, shoot the shit type of conversation.
Yeah.
I thought about putting down some bullet points, and I was like, whatever. Me and Buck can
Yeah.
just
I like
talk.
the, yeah.
So what I do with Kyle, I can do it with Buck.
Yeah.
All right. Well, you've been writing.
Oh yeah. The Substack's going. Yeah. They urged me to do that at Dissident Media. And at first I was like, I don't do that. But it's like squats, that's my worst lift. Well, then go squat, boy. So I started doing more of it. And now I'm like, I just, I'm flooded. I sit around sometimes in the evenings trying to relax and then boom, 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 and all these ideas. And so now I keep writing. So yeah,
Yeah,
I have Buck Johnson at Substack, buckjohnson.substack.com. And so
I
that's
like the
been fun.
subjects you've been coming up with.
Yeah, it's because I'm trying not to do strictly 100% theology, obviously. But if you can look at things through an orthodox lens, truth, subjectivism, postmodernism, male, female relationships, yeah, I just keep getting inspired. So yeah, it's been fun. I love it.
It's been really good. I've been
Thank
trying to read all. I haven't read all of them. I'm not going to lie to you, but I've been
you.
trying. When I see you post one on X, I'll try to go find. At 10. They're not long. They're like within
No,
five
I try
ten
to do
minutes.
them. Yeah, quick little reads. I
Yeah,
try to write it to where you're not getting flooded like in a big chapter or something like that.
yeah,
So
yeah. It's really good, easy to read, and
thank you.
usually you get something out of it.
Thanks.
I haven't found one I haven't gotten something out of, but I'm not going
Okay.
to say 100% of the time because I don't want you to get prideful.
No, I'm not I'm
I,
not prideful over that stuff. I'm just still experiencing it and enjoying it, and reluctant to advertise it even, to be honest with you. But it's fun. So
No, but I've been really enjoying the subject matter. Like you've come up with like ideas, and I'm like, oh, that's a good idea.
thank
So
you.
I've been really enjoying it. And Counterflow, as always, you can find Buck at Counterflow. Everybody knows where to find Buck. If you don't know where to find Buck, I don't know why you're listening to me.
Just search Counterflow. It's real easy.
Yep. All right, brother. Well, I'm gonna
All
stop
right,
this
sir.
recording. I appreciate you.
I appreciate you, Tommy.